Number 16, money is spiritual, and spiritual is hard to decode, even by smart people. I've made so much money in this very short time on earth, and I've spent so much money on partying, on cars, on gadgets, on women, on hotel, on traveling, and I don't regret any of these experiences. But then the reality is that I have touched more money in this past 30 years of life than my father has touched in his entire existence. And that is very, very, very harsh and cruel, because there's a difference between making money and then keeping money, which is the part that we're going to get to learn in school. And going forward, you don't have to get to 30 to learn this. But then I did. I'm not that smart anyway. But then going forward, we have to make sure that we just don't spend money, but we learn how to multiply money. Number 17, I'm going to tell you to employ your mirror neurons and not your ego. And that's something that has tremendously helped me from way back, especially this last 30 years. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole science of what mirror neurons are, but then if you really love knowledge, I think you should go figure it out. It's a beautiful concept of how the human mind works. But then I will just break it down in simple terms. The energy that you use to envy and mock and criticize people is the same energy you could use to mirror that same thing, that same character, that same trait, that same personality that you see in the other person. Instead of envy, you can mirror it. And for me, that has been very, very amazing, especially on my educational journey. I've never really been the book type. In fact, when I was growing up, I was the opposite of anybody who could study, who could sit down to read, because I was very, very restless. I still am, but then I came in contact with this very brilliant kid. His name was Chidera Alozie. Um, in fact, on prize giving day was Chidera Alozie's day. This guy won every award on the shelf. It was serious. And then I remember my little self sitting down in my chair, angry and saying, what exactly is this boy doing? How exactly is he able to be the best in social studies, the best in maths, the best in everything? And I and I don't get to be the best in anything. And guess what? I decided to mirror his activities. I became close friends with him. I visited him at home. And guess what? Many years down the line, I became I began to top my own classes and become best at something. All right. So number 18, set boundaries with people early. I like to add that last part. Set boundaries early, especially with siblings, with your friends, with your colleagues, and even with your spouse. You know, I try as much as possible to set, the terms of our responsibilities and our duties in every country, in every relationship that I have, so that nobody will be disappointed and nobody will expect more than I can give. Um, Very, very important. Um, I know many people of my age. I know many people of my age who have younger siblings, and then some of them live with you, some of them you're fending for them, you're sending them through school. It's a huge responsibility, but make sure you make them know that you're not their parents. I'm not daddy. I'm doing this because I love you. Okay? You need to set those boundaries. Very, very important for you. You know, even in church, there was one time my pastor in church added me into this WhatsApp group. I removed myself, and then he was not happy. He called and said, why did you remove me? I said, I don't want hundreds of people, hundreds of notifications going off of my phone. Every message I get is important. I cannot afford all your church people talking on my phone. I removed myself. I think he added me again. What audacity. I removed myself again. And then, it was clear to the whole church we're having issues. Something that would have just been done in private. But he wanted to, you know, control me. But you have to really, really set those boundaries. I also like to recall another experience. You know, I was with my best friend. We've been very good friends for a long time. For a long time, and we've enjoyed a lot of comrades. We've enjoyed chicks. We've shared some nasty bedroom business together. But then, after my honeymoon, he was there and he was asking me, how was sex with my wife? I was like, no, not this one. You could enjoy every other story I've shared, but this one, you don't ever ask me about my wife. And this person was married, and I've never asked him about his sex life with his wife. I said, bro, that's silly. You set boundaries. Okay. Number 19 is a quick one, and it is simply that it is very important, if you can, to have kids early in life. It's very important to have kids early in life. Somebody was asking me, why do Western people, why do Americans, why do they have kids much earlier than we in Nigeria? And the easy answer will be economics. Okay, the easy answer will be to say that, okay, the grass is greener on the other side. But then that would not be all of the story. I will be honest to admit that currently, as we speak in Nigeria, there is an abortion pandemic happening, and it's been happening for quite a few decades. I would say from the early 2000 up to this time, 2024. It has been a pandemic. It's an abortion pandemic. We're killing our babies in seed form. We are killing our babies in seed form. A lot of us are guilty of this, but there's beauty in allowing your seeds grow and watch you grow and experience you. I saw a picture of Ryan Sterling, the English and Chelsea football international, with his daughters. I was like, how old is this boy? Your son watch you lift the Champions League, see you shut down stadiums. I have a son now, and I believe when I'm 40, when I'm at the peak of my life, he's going to be 10 years old or about that. And it will be beautiful for him to stand and see daddy make those moves. Big 20, big 20. I want to give you a big round of applause. The fact that you're here, the fact that you stayed till number 20, I'm really happy. And I'm going to give you this beautiful lesson. And it is simply that multiple streams of income should not be your priority, especially in the first 30 years of your life. Yeah, you need time and patience to become a master of anything. And I know a lot of, social media influencers are all pushing multiple streams of income. You prefer to focus and channel all your energy, channel all your resources into becoming a master of something, and then you would build from that. Master and perfect one skill, prototype it, and move to the next one. Remember, it takes time to be at the top of anything. All right, number 21. Your relationship with your father will definitely impact your relationship with God. My relationship with my dad has not, I would say, has not really been the best, but he has been the best father that any man can ask of. And one time I was on the phone with my mom, and she called me Dim, which in my dialect means my husband. And I retorted to her immediately. I said, I'm not your husband. Is there a 66-year-old man next to you waiting to talk to me? That's your husband. Because I don't want to take his credit, especially when he's alive. I really appreciate him and respect him for surviving. Number 22. God has a sense of humor, especially in the arena of the children of overdose. And what I mean by the children of overdose are, when we were growing up as kids, certain children were, fingered as the stars of the future. They had all the, the potential. They came from wealthy homes. They went to the best schools. They had computers, even in the early 90s, before we could even have contact with those type of blessings. I'm just telling you a whole range of opportunities. But then at 31, looking at those children who were stars in the future, most of them are struggling. Yes, most of those children who were spoiled silly, who had chefs, who had people serving and waiting on them, down the line they don't turn out very well. And I will be very honest to admit that there are a few exceptions, a few outliers in their ranks, like, popular amongst is Davido. Okay, even though he's from stupendous wealth, he still carved a niche for himself, and he's still a hardworking man, and I respect that, and I respect other kids like that, like him. But they are just a quintessential percentage of the pool, I mean, of the children of overdose. Please be careful. I know in our bid to give our kids the best of what we didn't have, we tend to actually, tilt. We tend to really, I don't know how to say it. Just, make sure that your child is not overdosed. Your zip code doesn't matter. So the most important thing is not where you live or where you stay. I see a lot of Nigerians now on the jackpot trend. Everybody is, going to the UK and to the US and Germany and everywhere, and that's beautiful too. But then the truth is that even in those places, there is an abundance of poverty. There is an abundance of police brutality. A young lady was shot yesterday by the police in Illinois. It was really brutal. So there's trouble, there's crime, there's deprivation everywhere. But then the most important tool is your mind. Is your mind. Is not your location. It's not where you were born. It's not your background. It's your transformative power, ability to transform your mind. That's what will set you apart. And I would really like to take an example from what I call the stupidity of Lot. The Bible recorded that Lot lifted up his face and he saw to the plain and the fields, and it was beautiful and he was green, and he saw his reason to move towards the right was completely based on economics, and he ended up in Sodom and Gomorrah. But my point is, Abraham asked him to choose. That's the OG I really want to put. Abraham, there was no, listen, Abraham could still have gone to Lot's direction and still become the father of all nations. I'm telling you, wherever you are, you can make a difference. Just like I'm making this video from my office home, you can let your little light shine. Number 24, don't be ashamed to struggle, especially in the first 30 years of your life, when you're still in your, I would say, birth stage. You're trying to birth your dream, you're trying to birth your vision. That is not the time to be ashamed. You need to learn to ask questions. You need to eat home cooked meals. You need to live in a rural area and aim for the urban cities. You don't need to look cute when you're about to bet something. In the labor room, my wife didn't care about the other male doctors that were there. Number 25, learn to trust people who have been right so many times. And I know that it's very hard to trust people. That's a whole YouTube video on its own. But then, if somebody has proven themselves over years, over a period of time, to be, right, I would say, to have your best interest at heart, I think you should learn to trust them, especially in spouse relationship, especially in parent-child dynamic. If you see that your father, your mom, your aunties, they are always, seeking for your best interest, you need to learn to trust them. If you can stand criticism, if you take correction, if you seek direction and love instruction, then you are dangerous. You need to be prepared. Be prepared. That was our motto in Boy Scouts many years ago. I was in the Boy Scouts, and we had the motto was be prepared. And over the course of this past 30 years of my life, it has really, really helped me. I have been prepared, but then I have to put, a caveat to say, irrespective of being prepared, make sure that, you take counsel before you take action. Okay? But then still be prepared, take those screenshots, save your receipts, learn to use a rifle, learn to land a plane, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. When money is involved, learn to put it in a contract. Okay, I like to share stories. So I was talking to my baby sister one time, and she gave me a bad news, what she thought was a bad news, and I just continued to soldier on in our conversation. And at some point, she had to call me and say, "Hey, I just told you this. How come we did not show any shock or, surprise?" And I told her, "I'm prepared for anything." And I want to really speak to those people who say, "Oh, you're just negative," and no, I don't see the worst in people, but I'm I'm not gonna be surprised when you show me your dark side, because I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared, you know. So you too, you gotta be prepared so that eventualities and life doesn't just sweep you off your feet. 7 is more like a comic relief. Nothing will happen to those who leave you. Nothing will happen to those who divorce you. Nothing will happen to those who don't help you. That your uncle that you asked for some money a while ago and he didn't send it to you. No, he's not going to fall off from the tree, and he's not going to die of cancer. Use it as motivation. Use it as fuel. Nothing is going to happen to those who don't help you. In short, if you're bitter and negative, God has a sense of humor. He will continue to make sure you see them uplifted and see them shining and see them elevating. If you have a nasty attitude because they did not show you love when you asked for it, move on. Number 28, be careful of referrals. Now, I want you to be very, very careful of the people you refer. Okay? It is so easy to say, I have a plumber, I have a doctor, I have a this. But the problem is, whenever there is crisis between that transaction, you, who referred that person to the client, is also going to get part of the heat. So, whenever somebody comes to you and say, "Oh, do you have somebody that sews clothes? Do you have somebody that is a dentist?" I want you to first, no matter your relationship with that person, I know we are always very emotional because you want to put bread on the table of your friend or on the table of your brother or your sister. You want to put bread on their table. I understand your kind heart. I'm like that too. But I'm telling you, you're going to get in a lot of trouble if you don't inspect their past to say, the last job, what did they do? I heard them on the call that they've not delivered some of their jobs. Make sure you inspect their character, inspect their track record before you refer anybody. I'm telling you, I've been in a lot of trouble. Let me give you a personal story. So somebody asked me to come help me rent out a 3-bedroom apartment. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment. It had 4 different compartments. So I would have made money from renting out those 4 different properties. So I would have made money from renting out those 4 different apartments. Long story short, I found out that the house was not ready to be let out yet because the lightning was not good. So they needed an electrician. I had this brother in church who was an electrician, and he has always been asking me to hook him up and give him jobs. Immediately, without even thinking, I pulled out my phone and called this brother and said, "Come here now." Because of my influence, he got the job instantly, and they paid him all the money that he put together during his inventory list. Finally, when it was time to activate the light, you will not believe what I'm about to share with you right now. The entire building was ghastly destroyed by fire. I was called in the middle of the night and I ran out. There was fire. And the whole building was gutted, almost gutted down, if not for the intervention of neighbors and people who were on there at the scene. Upon police investigation, they thought it was actually somebody who had broken in. That was actually the first thing that we thought. We started to look for the enemies of the landlord to see if anybody was trying to attack him. But guess what? Upon review, upon investigation about the cause of the fire, they found out that the electrician had used fake copper wire in the distribution of the electricity, and immediately light came in. Boom! Boom. I would not forget the horror I felt in my stomach when that was discovered as the cause of the fire. And the landlord looked at me and he said, "Your brother has done this." And that man never spoke to me for a long time. Many years later, I was so happy to see him. But guess what? That business relationship died an automatic death because I referred somebody. Be careful of referrals. Be careful of people you tell to come and eat at your table, because some of them, I'm just going to get out of that. 9. You must keep a journal. If you are going to make it through the first 30 years of your life, it is very, very important that you have a bank of revelation. I always have a journal. I always have several journals, and I love to keep my journals handy because they are, I call this my bank of revelation. Don't trust your memory. The brain plays a trick on us. It does not remember everything. It does not remember everything. So you need to have a journal so that you can execute all the ideas and plans that God will give you during the first 30 years of your life. You might not do everything in the first 30 years, but having that plan written down, having that vision on paper would help you, would pivot you, especially would chase you down into the direction that you want to head down in your future. So it's very, very recommended that you keep a journal. Finally, we have made it to number 30. 30. If you live to be 30 years, it's really very, very beautiful experience. And to round up this beautiful video, if you've noticed, I've been speaking from my heart, and there's no way I would have put up a 30 list and not make reference to the puppet master himself, the great puppet master. You know, God is real and he exists. I think if he wants you in his army, he will send you so many convincing proofs. So many convincing proofs. Man thinks he wields the ability to direct his reality, but circumstances of life continue to show him how hopeless and helpless he really is. My simple thumb of rule is keep acquiring more of the flavors that make you exceptional. And if God fails, that's bad for his reputation. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for staying to the end. I hope I see you when I'm 41. Thank you.